anybody wants to join in. But otherwise, we should get started here. So, grab the book. All right, welcome to the April Arcadia Book Club in our discussion of Raising Hare by Chloe Dalton. So we've had some, I don't know, we've kind of gone back and forth with some harder books and then some like really wonderful soul-filling books like this one and Time of the Child. So it seemed like right now we all kind of needed this book. So we'll just start chatting, and Kate has some wonderful pictures from the English countryside that she's going to put in our chat, so you can all see, and she'll tell you what it's like. Kate, you said she is farther south in the country than you are?
Yeah, I guess she lives near London. Or I think it said in the book she lives near London, so it's a few hours south, because I'm in Manchester technically, but like just on the southern border. So if you walk about 40 minutes south of where I live, you're just like in a field.
Okay.
So yeah, but it's like, I mean, it's so small, it's basically the same kind of environment from here and there, I think.
Right.
I think Kate, I think where her house is and where her mother and sister live it's pretty far north. It's a few hours. Yeah, it's a few hours north of London. And she's been particularly coy about where it is because the only I saw an interview or a talk that she gave today. She didn't give it today, but I saw it today. But there's the hare is the only animal in England that you can hunt 365 days a year.
Mm.
And so she was trying to not attract anybody where she lives.
Oh God, I thought it would just be a privacy thing, not like a keeping hunters away thing. That's so crazy.
They called it coursing, where the dogs chase. They see whose dog can go the fastest by chasing the hare.
Right.
I think I saw that same interview, James, because she said there's been an 80% decline in the hare population in England.
Oh,
due to decline in habitat.
I read that.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, due to habitat decline and that year-round hunting, they can hunt them even when they're nursing leverets, so
yeah, it's really too bad.
Awful.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry, Kate. I shouldn't have interrupted. Go back and tell us about your walks and what you saw.
No, that was fine. I mean, yeah, I don't know where she lives, but also England is like the size of a thimble, so like it's anywhere between here and London is pretty nearby. But I've just been walking a lot, and because I finished my degree and I'm unemployed, so I have nothing to do but walk for like hours every day. And but I noticed I'm gonna try to drop things into the chat while I talk. But I've seen there are a couple of like meadow restoration projects nearby.
Oh wow.
So there is a lot of farmland up where I live. And there's, while I'm walking, I see all the like big industrial equipment and all that. But there's a lot of like nature preservation stuff going on around Manchester as well. I think these were the ones that I sent. So one of them is they're trying to restore a floodplain that by this canal, and the canal, if you can take it all the way, and then the other way you can go all the way to Sheffield.
And isn't all private land in England open to the public on paths, on walking paths? Or isn't it supposed to be?
I don't think all of it is, but generally there's walking paths that some of them will have signs like this is a completely public open walking path. There's some that say like this is technically private land, but you can use the path so you can walk through. But one of these meadow projects, one of them is specifically so that the natural wildlife will come back, and they've seen a big increase in the hare population so far. So it's ongoing from like 2018, I think.
Cool.
Yeah, I think I sent
Yeah, there are
the
4 pictures in the chat.
okay.
People want to look at those. Janet, where did you grow up, Janet?
The northeast of England, Northumberland. And then my family moved to County Durham and then ultimately to outside of London in Surrey. And I went to school in Dorset, so I've lived in the north, south, southwest.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
All right, so if you haven't looked in the chat, Kate has put 4 pictures. So that first one is what the equipment does to the hedgerows, right, Kate, where it's like,
Oh yeah, yeah. I've been using this app to identify trees a lot, and I've been really pleased. I can identify hawthorn very easily because it looks like parsley. So I was walking on the canal. I was like, a lot of the hedges here that border the fields around here are hawthorn. And then I noticed the tops were like completely shredded. So there's part of the book where she's talking about that, where
Yeah.
like the industrial machines clip the hedges and leave the tops like totally blistered and really wrecks the habitat. And as I was walking, I was like, that's what she means. That's what it looks like. So if anyone needed like a visual like I did, I thought that was helpful.
Wow. That's great.
and so the other pictures are those in that habitat that they're,
Yeah, so the one of them's like a big plaque that explains the project.
Mhm.
And then it's like part of this old farm that's near a place called Dunham Massey, which is a National Trust property, and it's basically like an old manor house that was attached to a mill, which is now like a public park. So down the road from that is a little farm area, and that's being restored to like its original meadow state. And then the like kind of wild brambly picture is the actual meadow that they're restoring. So that huge like hedge stuff is supposed to be where the hares and the birds are going to live and kind of protect them from the people on the walking trails. And then there's the big, like just down the road from that is kind of what the rest of the area looks like. So it's just huge, like industrial farmland. So that's kind of the contrast of like, there's some protected areas that I think are getting bigger. And then, you know, you go down the street and there's like a giant tractor just going by. But it's better than nothing, I guess.
Yeah, it is. Wow. Cool.
all right. Well, that was great, Kate. Thank you.
Sure.
We don't usually get like, photos to go along with our books. So that was wonderful.
I know, I wish she had had some pictures in it. So as I was walking, it was like, oh, I'm going to take some and send them to Nancy so that people can have a visual.
Right. I think that I read the book that I think most of you read, if you got the finished book, even has more drawings than mine. Mine doesn't have very many drawings in it of the hares. Well, does somebody have a particular thing they want to share about? Before that, there is the one that I saw, and I don't know whether I don't remember her saying that particular thing in the lecture that I saw, Allison, but it's on a thing called 5 by 15. And you can do it on YouTube. It's about a 20-minute talk. It's very charming because she spends the first 3 minutes telling everybody in this auditorium that she's not used to doing this kind of thing, and so she's quite nervous. And if she gets lost, that's why she'll get lost. But there's some beautiful pictures in that presentation. So she's kind of in the corner, and then she gets these big pictures to come on. But it's a really beautiful one. beautiful, and it's you know, it's 20 minutes, so you can. It is okay.
James, what is it called?
Well, the site is 5x15, 5
Okay.
by 15. And if you just type in raising hare 5x15, I think it'll come in. Or if you if you just type her name into a search, it'll be one of the things that comes up. Okay. Who wants to talk about something, maybe something particular in the book that caught you by surprise, or something you didn't know, or there are many things I didn't know, that's for sure. Anyone? Yeah.
Liz.
Liz, that's Liz. Liz has her hand up. You're on mute. You're
Mine's
unmuted.
very simple. I had never heard the word leveret before this book, and now I will never forget it because it is used so much in the book. But what a funny and charming term for the young of a hare. It's so different from the word hare. You know what I mean?
I know. I know.
The other thing is I was not, I mean, I knew the difference a little bit between rabbits and hares, but now I feel like I really do, especially the long legs, the long ears, the tips. There's one picture in here that I don't know if you have this in your book, James, but it's so, you know, the long, it almost looks like a frog, the long legs.
Yeah.
I think of them standing on their legs, which I
Yeah.
didn't even realize they did. I didn't even know they boxed, or, you know, just so I learned, not only was it charming and endearing, I learned so much,
Yeah.
and I really appreciated that. But it wasn't ever clinical or like a textbook. It was so charmingly told. I felt.
Yeah, it was a really easy way to learn a lot of things but it was always within the construct of this particular event. Yeah, I agree. It was really nice. I'm sorry, I'm having some weird internet thing going on, which is not my forte. I know you're all amazed to hear that.
What did you have something to say?
I just want to piggyback on the boxing. Melanie had found a video and showed me of Hare's boxing in slow motion. But slow motion, it looks so damn fast. It's unbelievable. I can't imagine in real time how fast they're on their back legs and they're boxing in slow motion, but it's like in slow motion. It's crazy. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, their legs are astonishing, and how high they can jump. God.
Mr. Al.
Well, I don't think I've ever seen a hare in my life, and I thought they were rabbits. I mean, I've heard them described other ways, so this was, this was good for me. And I amazingly had heard about the massive roundups where they, whole towns would come out and make a line and walk forward, and especially in the plains like Kansas or one of the more open plains. And I've read about those, but I thought they were talking about rabbits. I had no idea that this was what was going on. On the book itself, living a little bit rural now in retirement, there are one or two times when I've come across animals that could have used some assistance, but when you call somebody and you say, "What do I do about this critter?" They usually say, "Leave him alone." And whatever you do, don't bring a raccoon home, no matter how cute it looks as a little guy. So for her to do that, she tried to make it work, and she did get it to work. But I'd say she's damn lucky that she got a hare, because I can't imagine another animal that clean or that independent, but still able to adopt a house and come and go and be fairly unobtrusive. Because most of the animals I know that come in, I used to feed birds for a while, which meant I had possums and raccoons all over the place. And once they get used to that, it's not fun anymore. You know, it's not nice having those little critters running around. So I I've never, I don't know, has anybody else seen a hare? I've never.
No. I've seen them, but I've never been close to one.
Yeah. So I thought she was really lucky that she got to be the center of this hare's attention and life, and got to, you know, use her. She used the time really well to study it and to try to get the background and figure out what it was all like about, and then to have that whole process turn on her and make her look at her own life and realize that, you know, maybe slowing down wouldn't be such a bad idea, and maybe an attachment to one place, it could work. So yeah, I really enjoyed the book. Admittedly, I needed it, and so I was happy I read it, and I thought it had a lot of good stuff in it.
Okay.
Allison?
Oh, she's calling on.
I was so excited about this book. An English friend had told me about it, saying that she lives over here, and she said she had deliberated about ordering it from England, you know, at great expense, because it's so expensive to get a book shipped over, and she decided to wait till it came out. So I ordered it too, and it arrived like, you know, the day it came out or something. I think what I loved about it was, well, there were many things I loved about it, but it's so exquisitely written. I mean, she's got, you know, I mean, I love, if you see interviews with her, she's like super humble and says, well, nobody was less prepared to deal with a wild animal than I, you know, she didn't know anything about it. She's very humble about it. But despite what she does for a living, I mean, she writes, she's writes like a poet. And she's got the eye of a zoologist for detail. I mean, her descriptions of that baby liver. And I read this book like in 2 nights. I read the first half and then I read the second half. And I kept telling myself, don't rush. Don't rush. This is a meditative book. Slow down. But it was so beautifully constructed. I mean, it has a dramatic arc. You know, there's a couple of places where you think, oh no, the leveret's going to die, you know, or something's going to happen. And yet, you know, it's so far, at least it's a story with a happy ending, you know, and the interview I saw with her, I think she said it was 3 or 4 years old now, and that it's had given birth to many leverets, and its leverets have given birth. But I was so impressed by the writing and the fact that she didn't try to tame it in any way. I mean, she did more adapting to the hare than the hare. I mean, obviously the hare adapted to her, and I really think the hare kind of bonded to her in a way, you know, that it trusted her, but she went the mile to adapt to the hare, which I just love that about the book, you know, and it's just so there's kind of a metamorphosis that happens in it, and there's a lot that feels kind of sacred in it. And we talked about that last chapter.
Paragraph, that last paragraph in the book is astounding.
The final paragraph?
Yeah,
Is that the one you were thinking?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, on just that whole last section, the whole last chapter was really beautiful, a beautiful sort of reflection.
I found her instincts for caring for the hare were it's just incredible, even though she had no wildlife experience I mean, she had her sister, I think it was, to rely on early on about
mother helped her
how to feed the hare and with the milk and the cloth and all that stuff and the oats and things. But she just used her own instincts and what made sense. And early on, she decided she didn't want to tame it, you know, and cuddle it and all that stuff. And yet the hare returned that affection, and that was just amazing. And it just makes me think about the, I don't know, emotional intelligence of the squirrels I see, or trying to rate our feeders, you know, but you know, things like that. And you know, it's just a window, a simple animal. And
But it isn't,
it's not a simple
it's not
animal.
a simple
Yeah,
animal.
it's
Yeah.
just astounding, you know.
I mean, it's such a window into, interacting with other species, which, so much of this world has forgotten how to do, if indeed we ever did it. And she's so respectful, and we learn along with her, In some of the videos that I watched, I mean, you've probably seen them if you looked at them. There's some really cute shots of her feeding the leveret. I mean, she must have done it with her phone, or feeding the leveret with a little bottle, and the leveret on a blanket out in her garden and stuff. So it's just so. I mean, I knew about hares. I have family in New Mexico, so I knew about Western hares, which I think jackrabbits are hares, aren't they? They're called jackrabbits. I think they're
Yeah.
really hares. Yeah. So, but I only knew about this kind of hare from like reading English children's books when I was little, So,
So James found an article, an interview that she did in the Washington Post. And she says in it, the last time she knows the hare was in the house was on New Year's Eve. So she's still around. So, she's over 4 years old now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But the end of that article I thought was just fantastic. It says, there's a lot about the experience in which I was laughing at myself, and I hope it comes across in the book. That sense of trying so hard to chart our lives and live our lives in a good, meaningful way to try to take control of our destiny. And it turns out that the experience that I needed was one that I could never have foreseen. It wasn't at the other end of the world. It was just around the corner at the end of the garden.
Nice.
Yeah. I think a lot of us knew in the moment, I think, didn't we? A lot of us heard the bird song, like during COVID, things were just quieter, and it seems like we kind of appreciated things like the dolphins were back in the canals in Venice.
yeah.
And it seemed like it was perhaps a time for some healing. Um, I hope, like the pictures Kate showed us, that continues. I'm afraid some of it hasn't, but there is hope if we can bond more with nature and get off our phones and
Yeah.
appreciate what's all around us. All right, Liz, do you want to say something?
Yes, I wanted to continue a little bit on the physicality of the hare and why now I understand. I thought she was so good at explaining how the hare versus a rabbit is a little bit more akin to a dog or a deer. The longer face and the more exaggerated features. And now when I think about hares in literature like Alice in Wonderland, the March hare, when you see the illustration of the hare, it has that long face, right? So I'm like, oh, right, that's a hare. I think that was so different and really illustrative in her language. The other thing I wanted to say was that, as you mentioned, her ability to have restraint on trying to kind of, even not giving it a name, what I mean? Like she knew nothing, but she was able to really observe and stand back and let the hare dictate what the relationship could be. And she would just provide the bare minimum, and also have to, step back while it tried to go over the wall or disappear for 3 days, that obviously it caused her a lot of anxiety because she was so attached, but she allowed herself not to be attached in a way that was harmful to the wild nature of the hare. And that amount of restraint, like that's not easy. We all think that we're gonna respect it, but we want to, cuddle the baby raccoon. You know what I mean? Like that's our nature. We want to domesticate it and give it a name. I remember when we moved to San Francisco, we had fish like koi in a pond in the backyard. I named every single one of those fish. And a raccoon came the next night and had a beautiful sushi dinner in my backyard. And I thought, I'm never naming anything that's not my actual pet again. It's like, but that's our instinct, So I thought she just, I bet in her job, her her observation is one of the things that makes her so good at her job. But the way she was able to do that in the context of nature and the specific animal was amazing to me. I just was so inspired by that. And also learning about humans' effect on the world, the immediate world around them. Her world was very small, but there were volumes to be learned. Just as you were saying, Kate, in going out and seeing, observing how those hedges looked, and now knowing what is the cause of that, and learning about it, and learning what we could do differently, perhaps, that affects every single thing around us.
Yeah.
I thought that was just so inspiring. And perfect for spring, you know, just as we are out more and looking around more. I think I am a bit more observant now and sort of looking at, I mean, I try to be observant anyway, but in the context of this book, just thinking, you know, there might be a little bunny warren, you know, in my backyard. I don't know. There probably is, you know, or in the park or by the rivers or, you know, and what might I not do to disrupt that, you know?
Yeah,
I have
that's
a-
right.
Well,
In some of the interviews that you all have seen and the videos, did she ever mention her research into all the different quotes that went before each chapter? Some of them were like made you sit down. I mean, the one from Leo Tolstoy on chapter 14, what a destructive, cruel being man is. How many living beings and plants he annihilates to maintain his own life. I mean, she did it and the name of the chapter was Blood in the Harvest, and I didn't want to read it because I was worried what was going to happen. But I found those quotes were a great introduction to each chapter, and they were from all different time periods and ages and writers, and anyway, so I found that to be fun, interesting.
The Ernest Thompson Seton, I think she quoted him twice, Wild Animals I Have Known, which was written 130 years ago now. But I read that book when I was about 8, and it was just a really important reason, I'm sure, that I don't even kill flies. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
it's just an astonishing book, and I was so sort of shocked and delighted that she quoted from him. But yeah, there's all sorts of great stuff out there, and it does make you think and worry about all of us, I guess.
Yeah.
Worry about all of the animals in relation to us. But
yeah.
But to piggyback Liz, just one thing, and then I'll shut up again. I loved how patient she was. And I think, patience is such a undervalued way of engaging with the world for most people now, partly because the world keeps bombarding you so much, it's almost impossible to be patient. But yeah, I was really impressed with her in that regard. And yeah, and I started to pick out certain things that I thought, oh, this would be fun to read. But, it's almost like I underlined the entire book. So but if, once Larry starts reading, then maybe I'll read one little thing. But yeah, I was really impressed with her and startled that it was her first book. I mean, I know she's been writing speeches for 25 years for her job, but that's different kind of writing.
Melanie, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I'll go for it.
Okay, we both do.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I was impressed when Melanie referenced the book that it was a memoir. That's one of the things that I really like a lot. And one of the moments from Secret Paths that I chose, it's on page 266 of this book, the impact of the experience for her. Under the subtle influence of the Hare, my own wants have simplified. to be dependable in love and friendship more than in work, to leave the land in a more natural state than I found it, and to take better care of what is to hand, seeing beauty and value in the ordinary. I just love that. That's one that will live on for me. I hesitated marking the book. I was just turning down pages, but when I got to that one, I marked it. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Okay, Melanie. Thank you, Whit.
So I really love this book for multiple reasons and for the many reasons that everyone here has shared. I saw it as like two parallel stories. One was about the Hare and her observations, and she's just an incredibly bright person and perceptive. And the second was her own personal journey into herself. And in the beginning, she talks about being a little girl and wishing she could discover new places that nobody's ever gone to, and telling her mother, I'm so sad that they're all discovered and I can't find them. But then in this story, she's talking about she did go on a journey. She discovered her inner life and her other inner parts to herself. And she was awed by the experience. It engrossed in the experience. And I so enjoyed that. And I enjoyed when she said, I thought my work was who I am, as if it was her identity. And she discovers that, no, there's just a part of me. That's not who I am. And she discovers these other parts to her about nature and the Hare and animals and this extraordinary experience she has. But at another point, she also says, I discovered myself. And that state of consciousness that many people describe many times when they're in nature, where it's silent or quiet, and they are just, we're just awed by, I don't know about you, but I'm in awe of what I'm perceiving. And there's that calmness, that curiosity, the creativity. And I saw the same video that you had mentioned about, James, about where she, what was it? She said something about, what was it? Oh, I'm forgetting it. But anyway, it comes back. Oh no, it's not that. It's another interview I saw. Anyway, somebody asked her, do you think you'll still hold on to this experience? And she said, absolutely. I won't let go of it. It's a part of me now. It's who I, it's a part of who I am. She really had that sense of self, and that was profound for me to read that. I thought, this is an extraordinary human being who, in many ways, and I wasn't surprised that she did this, because she said she's a seeker of exceptional experiences. So look what she created. I mean, many people would see this little creature and do nothing, or the man who said, don't touch it, because if you do, the scent will be problematic. But she goes further, and she created an exceptional experience. And she said that her history was to set myself against the crowd. She's a very independent person who thinks for herself, and she does that in her work. She's extraordinary. But she creates this extraordinary experience. And it wasn't just that the Hare did it to her, she did it to herself. And I loved it. I savored this. It was rich. Rich
Yay.
book.
He's
That's what I wanted to say.
Melon,
Thank you.
Diane.
Yeah, I think, Allison mentioned it was very meditative, which I think was something we all kind of need right now. But I marked a couple places in the book, page 130 and 131, when she was talking about how frenetic her life was before this, and kind of how work defined her and everything. And I really related to that because my career was a lot the same. Since I could work at home, COVID did not give any respite from that. But I think that other experiences since retiring have had almost the same kind of effect of that inclination to want to slow down and to notice things and to be in nature and to I don't know, to look at a different way of living. And I thought the book was beautifully written and just almost kind of, I mean, maybe saying life changing is too strong of a word, but I think it's kind of it's kind of a reminder that we can all kind of look at our lives and say, what is it I really, how is it I really want to be living in the world
Yeah.
and with the world?
Hmm. Yeah, I most mornings in this near this house that we stay in the winter, it's connected to a huge state park called China Camp State Park, and it has beautiful trails. And so every morning I usually walk for an hour on this one particular trail, and I almost always see deer. And I was kind of, watching the deer and let them watch me. But after I read the book, I started stopping and saying hello to the deer every morning. I mean, trying to make eye contact and and literally let them hear my voice say hello, good morning. And they kind of go, what's with this? What's with the weird guy with the funny hat? I mean, but it's just, I notice the deer in a different way, and now they notice me. And sometimes I see these 3 or 4 deer walk in this kind of weird yard that's next to the yard. I mean, there's a fence, but I wonder if those are the same deer I see in the morning. I wonder if one of them looks up and goes, wait, that's the same guy. Hey, is that the guy we see in the morning? It was just that kind of odd. It just makes you more aware that they're paying attention too. And, our jobs is to pay attention to whatever it is we're experiencing. And she's really, really, really good at that, at how it affected her, how she just, by letting, allowing herself to leave the doors open in her house and the gates open in her garden, that takes a lot of trust and faith that a lot of other animals might be walking in. It's yeah, it's just really, really impressive.
There's not a picture of you there.
Melanie?
Uh, I was also touched by the way she talked about giving this Hare freedom and how it was almost like a metaphor for her. She was also giving herself freedom. She likes the wildness in the Hare, but there's a part to her that has her own wildness. I mean, she's out there in a wild world of politics and writing, but there were similarities in that she could respect these parts of the Hare just as she could respect them within herself. So I just wanted to throw that out.
What?
It just occurred to me that I wouldn't say that COVID was a gift, but I'm wondering how many other things happened because of COVID that have enriched our lives as on the other side of that scale, obviously, it's people that lost loved ones. But yeah, if she wasn't holed up at her home, she never would have had the Hare, and she never would have thought to do that. And it's just interesting in a way that she probably surprised herself, right? It's not something she ever would have contemplated doing or ever thought of doing. And this great gift that she's given the world, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, she wouldn't have allowed herself to take the time to
Right.
do
Yeah. She's driven.
It's time consuming, to do anything like that, hugely time consuming.
But a lot of us found that we couldn't do what we've done every day for years. I remember when the lockdown started, and I had never not seen patients starting on Monday through Friday in 40 years plus. And all of a sudden, it was like for almost 2 months or 6 weeks, it was, I think. Like, wow, how do I navigate this? I didn't even know, and I have a lot of interests, but it was like, it was so jolting. Um, yeah.
Liz?
I was gonna say that during COVID, when we were living in Portland, Oregon, I tried to rescue a baby. I think it was a mouse, it could have been a rat, because it ended up on my kitchen floor. It was a baby. And my 7 animals at the time did not notice it, which means they're all fired. But I was like, what is this? And my point to the story is that most of the time when you try to do that, it does not end well. It did not end well for this baby. I mean, it lived a little while, and I tried, and I fed it with the dropper, and I did all that stuff, and ultimately it passed. She is so lucky that it went that way for her, because this leveret was alone, and usually when they're alone, it means they're out of the nest for a reason. You know, either they got left behind, or they were sickly, or whatever the reason is. So how fortuitous that it was a healthy leveret that thrived in her care and remained, you know, itself in the same time. But I don't know if anybody's ever tried to rescue something. Oh boy, it's a harrow. You get so attached. It's such a harrowing experience, and you're you know, you're its life. You're giving it little food with a little dropper. I mean, it's a lot. I still think about that little mouse or whatever it was going to grow into. It was so cute, but it was, you know, it was short-lived for sure.
Wow.
Oh, well, I mean, yes, my mother was trained as a zoologist, Liz, so she sort of knew what she was doing. We grew up in the country, and I saw many baby rabbits not make it, you know. I mean, and she knew what she was doing. I mean, I once saw her perform a tracheotomy on a chicken, on the kitchen table. Actually, the chicken didn't live either, but she was trying to save it. But yeah, I mean, I think what's so amazing is that it's like the hare becomes her teacher. You know, that's the hare becomes her guide and her teacher, and she's humble enough and perceptive enough to give up, to surrender to that. You know, she it's almost like she has no choice. It happens, and suddenly she's involved in this adventure with the hare, and yeah, I mean, it's like she tries, she, you know, we can't ever, it's so hard to enter into another species perspective, you know, to see the world through another creature's eyes. I mean, I once took a class called the Kingdom of Green during the pandemic, as it happens, Wood, talking about things to do during the pandemic. And we had to observe we had to pick a tree, and for I think it was 6 or 8 weeks, we had to observe our tree and write about it, and we had to get little jeweler's loops and, you know, study the bark and find out all about it. And it's so hard to imagine yourself into the consciousness of another sentient being, whether it's, you know, an animal or a plant or a tree. And yet she's so good at observing, and she doesn't superimpose her human perspective on it. She's just always learning from the hare, you know. Because I agree, you know, our impulse is to, I mean, I've moved baby raccoons out of our driveway with with a blanket because I'm afraid they're going to get run over by the UPS guy or something, you know. So, I mean, our impulse is to like, oh, let me take care of you like you're a human baby. But, you know, they're not human babies, and we have a lot to learn from them.
I think she was also aware that it could die anytime, and that's what could happen. Like the leveret could have died, it could have run away and not gotten along with everybody or not known how to be in the wild. I think she was always very realistic about that and communicated that in the book. And I think that was good, because some people might think I could raise a wild hare right after reading this, but that's not the lesson of the book. It's that she had an extraordinary experience that was a very singular experience and shared her learnings from it, I think.
That scene where the hare has come back after a while, and I think they're in the kitchen, and she had said she never touched it, you know, after she didn't feed it anymore. She made sure she wasn't like petting it or anything. And she kneels down, and the hare stands up and like puts its paws on her leg, and they just like look right in each other's eyes. I mean, it was just like, I mean, that was just like took my breath away. It was amazing that the Hare trusted her like that, you know, such an elusive and skittish little creature that totally did everything that it wasn't supposed to do, but I don't know, had this amazing connection. So Janet, is this making you homesick talking about your
Oh, well, when she was talking about porridge oats, I mean, I don't know the last time I heard that phrase. I have a family recipe from my nana that involves you know, using what you call oatmeal, and it's just not the same. It's porridge oats, for goodness sake. And when she talks about a garden, I know what she means, because I remember first living here and somebody asking me, well, do you have a garden? And I thought, well, of course I have a garden, because why wouldn't I? The house came with a garden. But to you, that's sort of a cultivated, well, you know what it is. I didn't know what they meant, because you have yards. Brits have gardens and always will. Yeah, it did make me homesick. I've been reading it slowly, so I didn't gallop through it, Alison. So I'm still meditating, and I'm still not at part 2. I just love the tenderness, the bond she established, and her just all the observations of the colors and the quirky little things when she tried to stop the hare nibbling on her bush and the shrub in the garden. And I know we have naughty bunnies who chomp away at bushes they shouldn't get at, and we worry them off, and how it managed to get in there through the wire seam and kind of snuggle down there. And she was, you know, fine with just letting it be there and in its cozy little new refuge. I just thought that was so charming. Yeah, some other people have used the word charming. I found it very charming and endearing and so touching in all the ways she appreciated the Hare and always saw it as its own being, and researched so much about it. And I hadn't realized how horribly hunted hares were, so that came as a surprise and a shock to me. I've always hated any kind of hunting. Yeah, so that was surprising to me. I don't think I've ever seen a hare in person or in whatever it is. Yeah, yeah, I thought it was a lovely, lovely book. I'm glad we chose it.
All right, Larry, see you're off mute.
I'm so sorry to be so tardy. I was at a horrible county meeting. So I just have a question. Was there anyone that didn't love this book? Everybody liked it? So I thought this book was the perfect sequel to one of my favorite books, which is Walden by Thoreau, because she was living the life of quiet desperation. And I agree with Alison that the leveret, which is a new vocabulary word for me, I never heard of it before reading this book, was such a great teacher. And I did hear James say he was waiting for me to read, so I don't want to disappoint him. On page 129, why it made such a journey remains a mystery, but to me it encapsulates the strength and fragility of a hare, suggesting that there is far more to their nature than is commonly imagined, and underlining how little we do to make allowances to support the needs and instincts of this elusive creature, an animal that is both faithful to one place and requires a huge area in which to run. The hare's needs set it at odds with human impulses. And then at the bottom of that page, through the leveret, I had rediscovered the pleasure of attachment to a place and the contentment that can be derived from exploring it fully rather than constantly seeking ways to leave it and believing that satisfaction can only lie in novel experiences. I was moved by the Leverett's dignity, the sense of well-being and calm it spread, and the simplicity of its life. The life of a hare at ease is one of basking, rolling, resting, drowsing and dreaming, and living in the moment. So I think the Leverett is a Zen master based on her descriptions. And then 131, whereas I had been impervious to well-intentioned advice from friends, the Leverett worked upon my character soundlessly and wordlessly, easing some of the nervous tension and impatience that I realized I had been living with as a result of a life constantly on the move and on call for others. And then at the end of the book on 266, under the subtle influence of the hare, my own wants have simplified. To be dependable in love and friendship more than in work, to leave the land in a more natural state than I found it, and to take better care of what is to hand, seeing beauty and value in the ordinary. And I will conclude with my favorite sentence, which is, or two sentences. We are not, this is on 273, we are not so dissimilar. If we do not achieve all upon which we have set our hearts, or are beaten back by headwinds stronger than our desires, we too can lay up a while, watch the glitter on the grass, and renew our strength. And that reminded me of the conclusion of The Great Gatsby, which just celebrated its 100th anniversary. So I can't believe that she's a first-time author, because I didn't think I could like this species more than the rabbits in Watership Down, but I did.
I thought about it down as well, reading that. Yeah. Yeah. I like how much of the book he brought back to us.
All right, Allison. Oh, yep.
You're muted.
I thought the last paragraph was so exquisite. I tell myself not to count the years ahead in which she might never come again, but rather to cherish the days she has given me of her own free will, when she lowered her species' instinctive guard against humans and shared the beauty and mystery of her presence in silent and graceful companionship. And that last sentence, I will remember her leaving, but will know that before she did, she first always looked back. Oof. Brings tears to your eyes, that last sentence.
Does.
Yeah, it does.
All right. Well, I'm
Nancy,
so glad.
can I say one more thing? There was also a wonderful lightness in it as well. I mean, when she had her babies behind the curtain in her study, that was so hilarious. I mean, who does that, right? I mean, and that she felt that was, it was so safe, and that she was so just, she had the run of the place, and that was really cute. That made me laugh when she did.
Yeah, and I guess what she did, she came in every night right at dusk and fed the two, and then in the morning, right before sunrise, she fed them again. But in between time, she'd move one of them into a bookcase, and it would just sit there for 12 hours, and the other one sat behind the curtain.
It's great.
It's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
That article, she said she has not replaced the curtains that second or third gen Leverett chewed up. She's just. All right. Well, thank you, James. James read this book and loved it, so it seemed like one we would all want to read. So good choice there. So our next month is a short story collection. I know Adele asked that we do a short story collection, and you know,
Oh.
what Adele wants, Adele gets. So we are going to read Table for Two by Amor Towles.
Oh,
Yes. So I don't know if
Great.
anybody, if you've read his other books, I hope you have.
Yeah.
Common in Moscow and Lincoln Highway. These are amazing books. So we're going to meet on Wednesday, May 21st.
Great.
Yes. So luckily, the Unnatural World, aka Zoom, worked out for us today. So I was a little worried we weren't going to be able to meet, but I'm glad that you all could join us and have this great conversation, and extra credit points to Kate for doing show and tell.
Yeah.
So Kate, oh Larry, I don't know if you were here. If you look in the chat, Kate has taken some pictures of the English countryside that she shared with us.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Do
So
you have the new paperback version of the book?
Yep, it's in paper. Just came out last week. I think it was
Okay.
this week.
Well, if you remember when we did our favorite books, I had shared Rules of Civility, and apparently the novella is a sequel to
Yeah.
that.
I was
Yes.
just about to say that exact thing, Larry. That's what I've heard, and I haven't read either, so it's time to do my
Oh,
homework and
Rules
then
of
read the book.
Civility is fantastic.
Yeah.
I've heard. I like his other books, so I'm very excited.
and Adele, wasn't this your favorite book of last year?
Yes, it was. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Of course, we just like you and James and Allison and the rest of you, sometimes you see interviews or read articles. Well, I think maybe seeing him in person at the Madison Library big event in the spring probably was a big part of the sell too. It was very enjoyable. It was a super evening.
All right. So
Okay.
short story collection, May 21st.
May 21st.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Nancy,
everybody.
James.
you.
Great book.
Bye.
Great book.
Next month.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Too.
Bye.
Bye.
I